It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you and welcome to the BCSN GameTime Show's Fan Forum, where we were going to have us a discussion tonight that should be near and dear to absolutely everyone who's tuned in, Hart. And if it isn't, we hope it will be by the time we are done with this forum. Before I introduce myself, I am going to introduce this star-studded cast of brilliant minds that I have joining me, people who have been doing some things for a long time and have been very, very successful in what they're doing. We're going to start off from your bottom right, or bottom left. Of course, we have the dean himself, Mr. Dr. Kenyatta Cavil of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dr. Cavil, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Just glad to be in the mix of these great men. Some of these men I've followed for a while. Some of them don't even realize they introduced me and have played a large part to who I am today.
All right. And so I'll go ahead and get it out of the way now. We know we have at least two alphas on. I don't think anybody else on the screen is an alpha. So I'm going to go ahead and give those shout outs. And of course, I'll go ahead and move to the next gentleman, Ned. My friend, Mr. Colonel Gregory L. Clark, who is now at Alabama State University. So Hornets stand up. And I'll let him give us your position and your title over there, sir.
Thank you, Roy, and certainly glad to be here this evening. I bring you greetings from the Alabama State University here in Montgomery, Alabama, where I serve as the Vice President for Institution Advancement and the Executive Director of the Alabama State University Foundation. Go Hornets.
All right.
Look at all that light. Look at all that light.
Also joining us, for those who are network viewers, someone who is definitely a regular and that you're familiar with from the Carlos Brown Show, former athletic director also, Mr. Wheeler Brown. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Good evening, gentlemen, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Roy. Really appreciate you asking me to come aboard.
Well, listen, I definitely appreciate you. I know you've been around this thing for a long time, and you've been good at what you do. So, I wanted to make sure as we have these conversations that we do this. Now, I saved this other gentleman for last, primarily because those of you who've been following the Black College Sports Network for the past 25, 27 years, this gentleman is actually responsible for our first two broadcast contracts that we had. Formerly, he is the commissioner of both the SIAC and of the SWAC, Mr. Robert Vowels. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, and I bring you greetings from Detroit, Michigan, the University of Detroit Mercy. Go Titans. Been there for 11 years, but my heart is always with the HBCUs.
Most definitely. You know, I remember, tell a really quick story before I jump into this. I remember when I first reached out to Commissioner Vowels at that time and told him, I said, hey, listen, I've got this thing we're doing live streaming, and I want to stream SIAC games. And, you know, it's like, it won't cost you anything. And he was like, no, we're not going to do that. I just came from the Big Ten. You can't do it, you know, without it buffering every 10 minutes and it's doing its thing. And so we don't want to really put the product out like that. I said, well, why don't you try this for us? I'm going to send you a link to our radio stations. And I want you to listen to the radio station. I said, listen to it for 30 minutes and call me back and let me know what you think. Well, he called back in 15 because it didn't buffer one time. It was like, how are you doing this? And I was like, listen, this is that ingenuity we have. But, you know, and that he immediately jumped on with us. And it was one of the most exhilarating moments for me to have somebody who was from his background, who had been working with these major conferences and stuff, came in and saw the value in what we wanted to do then and what we've been doing for the past 20 plus years. And with this conversation, we are hoping to continue it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we do get going, what I want you all to do is I want you all to prepare your questions. Please provide some questions as we get in and we get going with this conversation. The core question that we are here to talk about tonight is, how do we increase HBCU athletic revenues? Now, again, I've got you 3 different levels, which is why we wanted to do this. Again, Mr. Vowels used to be a commissioner, so he understands it from that level. Mr. Brown has been an AD, understands it from that level. And Mr. Clark, working with advancement, working with alumni associations, can give you some definite things that we can do. And remember, this is all about the fans, how we as fans can engage and move this product forward. Now, before we get going, Doc, do you have anything that you want to add to this part of the conversation?
No, I think you really summed it up. I think the fact that we have individuals that can speak from different perspectives. Myself, I'll bring some of the academic knowledge in regards to what we've studied in this field over the years. And I think we will be able to get some valuable insight and hopefully some nuggets that can be taken away, that can be provided to those fans, alumni, organizations, and even some of the current athletic directors and commissioners can find some hidden jewels to help them further expand what they're getting done right now.
All right. Well, gentlemen, you know what? I'm going to ask the question. Would either of you like to go first and talk to us about what you think are some of the ideas that you think we can do as HBCU fans, as alumni, to help move this process along to generate revenues?
Well,
Mr. Clark, go ahead. You look like you ready to go. I'm put you front and center.
I am. So I think the question, you know, it's a great question, first of all, but I think before you can address it, you got to understand the foundation. And what I mean by that, if you don't have the right commissioner, if you don't have a president of a university that believes in athletics, we certainly got one here at Alabama State. If you don't have a board of trustees that considers athletics important, if you don't have an athletics director that takes this thing serious, and if you don't have the infrastructure within the leadership content of the university that believes athletics drive revenue not only to athletics, but drives revenue into the university, then it's a moot point. So I think all of those have to be in lockstep or in alignment in order to drive revenue into a university. If one is off, it does not work. Everybody got to be pushing in the same direction. and got to take athletics serious. Some universities may have a president at the top that, you know, may be academically driven, but really don't care about athletics. It does not work. So you got to make sure that all of them are in play. Once you do that, and we're all working together, and here at Alabama State, myself and my AD, we're tied at the hip in the way that we do business. And I think that's very, very important. And within that, we can get further into this, but I always think about our alumni giving rates, alumni coming to homecoming and paying the airlines, paying the hotel, paying the restaurant, the rental car places, and never come inside of the game. That doesn't help your athletic director. That does not help your university. So I'll stop right there. I got much more to say, but you got some more esteemed gentlemen on here. I'm sure can add a lot more.
I'll just kind of jump in there if you guys don't mind. My key word is investment. And when I say investment, I'm saying we as HBCUs and as athletic departments, we have to invest in ourselves in that area if we expect to get some return out of that area. You know, a few years ago, the big uproar was NCAA compliance. You know, we had schools that were not meeting the benchmarks in terms of APR and all that sort of thing. And I think we wound up going to the NCAA and they put some things in place. But, you know, bottom line was they did a lot to help us in terms of investing in that area. And then a lot of our schools started investing in the compliance area. And now you don't hear as much about, you know, teams not being eligible for postseason and all that sort of thing. We have to do the same thing with the fundraising aspect and with improving our lot in terms of dollars at HBCUs. HBCUs right now, we're a hot ticket. You know, I mean, we're as hot as we've ever been, you know, in terms of national recognition, almost in terms of enrollment being up and things of that nature. But I don't know that athletically we're able to take advantage of all the hotness, all the heat that's coming off of HBCUs being as popular as there ever been. But we have to start, like I said, we got to start investing in ourselves. We got to start building the infrastructure. As Mr. Clark was saying, you know, we got to have the wherewithal up top that it takes in order to get these things done. If you think you can just dump this on the plate of the athletic director and everything is going to be hunky-dory, then you're just kidding yourselves. You know, the athletic director's duties are just so immense and so intense. You know, they don't have enough time in the day to be going around knocking on doors, begging for dollars and all that sort of thing. You know, then you got to have a great working relationship with your institutional advancement people, you know, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard of ADs going to solicit funds and somebody saying, well, you know, you can't go here or you can't go there because institutional advancement is milking this particular person for this particular person for that. And so if you don't have that good working relationship with the folk across campus, you know, it's not going to go anywhere at all. You know, and the last thing I want to say, and I'll defer to, you know, other guys on the panel, there's no cookie cutter recipe for this. You know, all of our institutions are different in every way, shape, or form. And because of that, what may work at FAMU might not work at Alabama State, might not work at Jackson State, might not work at Fort Valley State. You know, all the dynamics are different. So you got to find that niche on your particular campus in order to make this work. And you know, I'll defer to the rest of the guys right now and interject a little more later on.
Well, I think that both Brother Brown and Brother Clark, you know, probably had all the answers just right there at the moment. And I can't add much to that from what they said, but, you know, and I'm just putting on the conference hat as opposed to the campus hat for a minute. They hit it on the head. I mean, it's leadership, and leadership starts with the presidents or the chancellors for you to have an opportunity to enhance and grow the external part of what you're doing, meaning corporate partnerships, sponsorships, and the fundraising sides, whether, you know, it's major gifts or annual giving or whatever it might be. But then, you know, I always like to look at a global part of things. And so for me, you're looking at the actual geographic footprint that you have and the academic reputation of the university and programs. And I always looked at the mission, vision, and value of every university that I ever worked with, because I mean, that's where they're built off of. And then you start putting in the various components of what you're trying to do. And I'll just give you, a couple quick examples. So, you know, like you might be looking for a robust, you know, media agreement. And I don't want to get too nostalgic, but when I was at the SWAC with Dennis Thomas, here again, it was a collaboration between the MEAC and the SWAC to actually get the ESPN deal going, which has now been 17 plus years strong. But at that point in time, ESPNU wasn't even in play. And ESPNU, and all our people said, like, why in the world are we going to do that? People aren't going to look at ESPNU. Well, 17 years later and 92 million viewers later, you know, HBCUs are firmly on ESPNU. And so, I mean, that's where things begin to grow. So you look at a robust media rights piece. And then after you jump into that, you know, you're looking at the other resources that you have, I mean, on a campus. And, you know, you have to put all those together. But the main thing I'm talking about is that if you've got 12 schools that are thinking in the same direction, that are willing to share and maybe not take as much on the front end during the first go around, then you can build it and grow it so that, you know, 5-10 years later, everybody's eating, things are growing, and you continue to make those marks and build the brand.
I really think it was interesting when you talk about Brother retired Colonel Clark and Brother A.D. Wheeler Brown and A.D. Vowels. It's a perfect framework when you think about it. What I heard were three things: alignment, investment, and leadership. AIL. So when you're solving a problem or if you're sick, you start to find out what can get you well. And to really understand that, you got to understand your ailment. AIL. What ails you? And so I really think that we're starting this conversation out in the perfect position. If you would, as I like to look at it, you have three pillars of success, right? Alignment, meaning that everybody has to be on the same page. If you talk about that from an institutional perspective, it was very judicial when you talk about all these different stakeholders. Can you move the stakeholders in a given direction? And it is inevitably amazing what that looks like when you get folks leaning in one direction and what you can solve. Investment. for anything to grow, people that have had any experience, they understand that you have to invest in it. So at some point, as we seek to solve this particular question, we have to ask the question, are we as a collective willing to invest in what we want to see happen? Lastly is the leadership. Can we provide that leadership in a perspective that they see the value of the alignment of the collective and the investment needed to move forward? So as we move forward, we can talk about those effective strategies. But as we bring these strategies to the table, and I'm sure everybody here will provide a different framework what that looks like, it's important that we understand that these three pillars have to come first before you can have any success in some of these effective strategies that you have in sports, particularly in collegiate athletics, to grow, which are sponsorship and advertisement. How do we get these sponsorship and advertisement? You can have a value that you see on yourself, but if there aren't alignment, an investment by all involved or the leadership, it's going to be a challenge to get the sponsorship or even provide the advertisement that is productive to either get it or, certainly even more important, maintain it. Ticket sales and season passes are something that we are all familiar with. Again, what ails you? How do you increase season ticket, right? How do you increase the population of season passes? You have to invest in the process of increasing that. I'll name a couple of few and then I'll open it back up for your second question. Merchandising and licensing. There may be one organization collectively in a conference that does this really well. Are they sharing the nuances of how they've been able to do that well with others that may not? To drive the understanding, the value of merchandising and licensing. How do we communicate to the alumni for them to understand the value of making sure they purchase apparel through official licensing agreements with those organizations out there? Fundraising and donations. How do we increase those? We have those on the table. How do we increase those in a meaningful way? These three gentlemen just told you the secret to the sauce. Again, we can get into particulars, but before you can get started, as they all said, there has to be an alignment, there has to be a willingness to invest, and there has to be a leadership that will drive the frameworks about how we do that. There are a couple of more: partnership, media outlets, as we talked about, corporate sponsorships, particularly of facility development, naming rights, if you would, on facilities. And those things are not something that you clap your hand and happen. It takes a lot of time to cultivate those relationships. But one of the biggest things that companies that are going to invest in you, they want to see that you're investing in yourself first. And that's not just the institution investing, it is the alumni and the sports fans showing their love and investment and being on the same page. And the last one I'll say, which is true to my heart, again, where I really started out, and I had a chance to work with Commissioner Vowels as he was leaving the SIAC and entering the SWAC. And I'll be frank with you, I was just a newbie in this, a baby in infantry, but he saw the value in what I was trying to do and pushed me forward as I was really learning that. But as we've come forward with 20 years, speaking with folks with Wheeler with those experiences of understanding the value of consulting with folks, even if they're not in their experience, to get that wisdom and the value to pay them for their expertise. People like Colonel Clark, in terms of his reputation and seeing and doing the research, the value that he's brought to just over the years that I've been introduced to him, two institutions. How do we become, based on the fact that we understand, to create the value in what he brings to the table and allowing him to share that and we have the reservoir to go to him to get that information such that we get the growth. And some of that is taking place. But for us to grow, we have to take that to the next level. And I'll put a pin on it right there. And hopefully I was able to sum up what we opened up with these two gentlemen talking about what is necessary to help us continue to push this conversation forward.
And everyone, that is why he is the dean. So what we're going to do, folks, is we get ready to take our first break. What I want you guys to do and think about, this is what we're going to get into when we come back. The first thing that we're going to do is discuss a couple of myths and figure out how we can combat these myths by being exactly who we are, not trying to be something else that we're not, or trying to be something that we are aspiring to be. Let's be the best at what we can be at this moment. Get your pens and pads ready. Remember, we're going to have these questions, we're going to have these discussions, but we're going to stop and drop some solutions as we do it as well. We will never have an opportunity to have conversation where all we are going to do is complain. And I'll actually give the story of how this came about, because it was based on a post that someone did something with. But folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the BCSN Game Time Fan Forum right here.
Hey, grab me one too.
This is Ryan Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the BCSN Game Time Fan Forum as we discuss ways for us to increase HBCU revenue. And before we get going and before we continue, please make sure that you like and subscribe to the Black College Sports Network. All of our shows that are on, you saw the Carlos Brown Show, you saw the Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, which we have to update that ad because the lab is now 6 days a week. The dean is putting the work in, and he's got the rest of the adjunct professors coming in and doing their thing. And, of course, you heard the BCSN Sports Wrap, which is actually the longest running digital HBCU sports show. We started that show in 1998. It was our first podcast before podcasting had a name. And we've been running that every year since. And actually, I'm going to show a question here from another one of our show members, Mr. Kelvin Rozier, who's a member of the ONG Strike Zone. And his question is, what are the HBCU peers that they are comparable to? This is an example of athletic, organizational, finance, and operational success. Hello, gentlemen. I wanted to show that one because that's going to be the first part of the conversation that I want to have. One of the challenges that we have as HBCUs is that we inflict on ourselves, and what I believe other folks do as well. One of the things that I've heard especially since the addition of Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman to the SWAC, well, the SWAC is the SEC of HBCUs. So fans, let me call you guys out and explain why that is nowhere near true and has not been true for a very long time. There are two main things that we need to understand. I'm going to give the first brief example. Florida A&M and I think North Carolina A&T have traditionally had the two largest HBCUs. And I think at the highest of their enrollment, they may have been around 12 or 13,000 students. They're right now probably hovering around the 10,000 mark, and that's for the entire school. So with that being said, the University of Florida in their fall graduation of 2023 graduated 10,000 students. So let's put that in perspective, that when we look at the numbers, and then you're talking about schools like UF, like Florida State, that have 60,000 students on a yearly basis. So the first level of funding that a lot of these schools get, and some don't even have this opportunity based on the states they're in, is student activity fees. We are not the SEC of HBCUs. We have to stop using that term because it puts too much pressure on us to meet up to a level that we will never aspire to. If you want to start comparing our HBCUs, look at schools that are in similar size and enrollment. Look at schools that have been around the same similar amount of time playing and being involved in athletics, because that also makes a difference in the way that we handle this. Now, let's talk about how that part of the situation then compares and puts us in a different position. This was research that we did back in 2010, I believe it was, because we were having this same discussion about what can we do to make the HBCU athletics programs and procedures better. And again, that whole SEC thing compared to what other HBCUs were doing, this is why we actually did the research in the SEC. At the time, there were 5 SEC schools that had stadiums that seated over 70,000 people. So that was the first thing. 5 schools that had football stadiums that seated over 70,000 people. Here is the difference. And I think at the time, Jackson State was probably the biggest, and I don't know if they were in the vet at that point or not. But I think the biggest usually is around 25,000 for HBCUs, and Jackson State Stadium, I believe, now seats about 60. Here's the difference. All 5 of those schools had 7 to 10 year waiting list to get on the waiting list for season tickets. Now, one of the gentlemen in this group mentioned that. The first thing that we as fans have to be able to do is find a way to increase the season tickets that are being purchased or sold by our universities. Because if I'm not mistaken, gentlemen, tell me, those tickets and ticket sales and things that come directly into the department, that's money that stays in the department. Doesn't have to get filtered throughout the other parts of the school. The largest school at the time with its season tickets was North Carolina A&T, and even they were only at 40% of the sales of their season tickets. From your perspective, gentlemen, what do you think that has to do, or what type of impact can that have, and how do we address that part of it? Who wants to jump in? Oh, Greg, you're smiling again. We just gonna go ahead and hear this. We just gonna start with the alpha every time.
No, you don't have to start. You don't have to start with me every time. But I do think that there is a direct correlation between our alumni giving rate at our HBCUs and what they're doing with regards to season tickets. Okay, so and my brother AD's on here know that if they wake up January 1 and they know they've got 60% of their stadium full because of season ticket holders, it helps them with their scheduling. Okay, it really does. It determines whether or not they go play the big FBS schools versus making a schedule where our teams will be more competitive to win. Okay, I think also when we think about this, we can't treat our athletic programs as just entertainment. It's something to do on Saturday evening. I'm getting out the house. I'm going and tailgate. I'm eating, having some cocktails. Some people come in the stadium. Some don't. A lot don't. You've done nothing to help that university if you stay in that parking lot. I kind of like South Carolina State's model. If you don't have a ticket, you're not even getting down in that compound, right? So we'd have to stop that. We also have to stop being supporters and alums of these universities and sitting in the parking lot watching FBS games and never come inside the stadium. Okay, and stop asking for free tickets. That's another big thing. I'm out of comp tickets. Buy tickets. They're not that expensive. We've got to invest in our athletic programs if you want a return on investments. It's about the athletic program. So that's my take on it, gentlemen. And I think we got to think about also from our students. In a lot of schools, the students are paying student fees and never come to the games, won't even step foot inside the stadium. Or if they come, once the bands go off, they leave. But we're there for a football game, first and foremost. Our bands, as I love them, they are part of the entertainment experience, but we're there to win a football game. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you hit it. I mean, free tickets. That's an issue that's always going to be around. But I think that you need to find a way to incentivize the package of what you're selling as far as season tickets go, like whatever that means for your university. Also, too, you got to remember that you're picking from the same bushel when you're asking about money, because fans, alums, donors, friends of the program are having to pick and choose between, do I buy season tickets or do I give money for annual giving, or do I give money for a major gift? And so because there's not enough money to go around, I mean, which one do you want to give to? And that's a challenge for our alums and donors. And then I'm being honest with you, then donor fatigue comes into play because you're hitting the same people all the time. The ones that have the capacity to give, and they're saying, I want to help, but I'm tired. Can't go ask somebody else. So I think those are the things that we continue to look at. So that's why I believe that you need to find a little push somewhere. And that's where you can begin to look at grants, begin to look at your sponsorships, your corporate pieces to help, bring in some additional monies where you aren't always asking fans and alums to give. I think that, you got to be creative. I think on the social media side of things, I think things are really hustling and bustling now. You can be much more creative on those type things. And then too, you just have to be honest. You have so many things pulling at you. So now you got NIL. So is the fan and donor going to give the NIL? Are they going to give the season tickets? Are they going to give the annual giving? So you got so many things kind of swirling around out there. But if you can find a way to make an attractive package that keeps people interested, I think that's one of the ways to start focusing on.
I'd like to add, from an athletic director's point of view, you're at the mercy of the schedule. We have to stop depending on the opposing team to fill our stadium. A lot of times these budgets are predicated upon who we're playing at home during a
Mr. Brown,
particular.
Mr. Brown, I'm sorry. Please
I
repeat
know,
that part and start back over with that statement that you just said.
and I know some schools are going to do a better job of filling my stadium than others. Which lends me as an athletic director to try to maximize, my revenue sports as much as possible. If I'm going to be playing a school that does not bring a lot of fans right now, and someone makes an offer to me in terms of moving that particular game to another city or to another venue or something like that, and going to pay me X amount of dollars, then, from an AD's point of view, I have to look at that. At the same time, we always talk about not wanting to get our kids hurt in terms of, playing the Power Five schools or playing the major schools, that sort of thing. At the same time, from an athletic director's point of view, from a revenue point of view, you're kind of forced into it. But what you don't want to do is to schedule so many of those games to where you put your kids in harm's way. I've said this 1,000 times. A lot of times when NFL scouts come on your campus and, look at film of your teams, that sort of thing, the first tape they grab is if you've played up or you've played a Power Five school or something like that. They're grabbing that tape because they want to see your kids against top flight competition. Now, somebody will say, well, it's not going to make any difference because they're not drafting our kids anyway. But, to a point, you can probably say that that's true. But, you want to try to maximize those opportunities when at all possible. Do you want to play them every week? No, you don't want to. You don't want to put your kids in harm's way unnecessarily, that sort of thing. But, we got to find some way to maximize the schedules as they are. We have to find a way to attract our home base to the point where they're coming to our games. And, you do that by not making your ticket prices so outrageous to where a family of four, it's going to hurt them in terms of coming to your game, that sort of thing. I've seen ticket prices in upwards of $50, $60, things of that nature. And, you look at the environment in which those schools are in. That in Jackson, Mississippi, it's going to be tough for a family of four to afford tickets at that price in terms of $50 a piece, that sort of thing. So, but from an athletic director's point of view, I can understand why they're trying to maximize, the schedule. But at the same time, you got to be mindful of the surroundings that you're in, and the key is to get people to come and to want to come and to continue to come on a regular basis. And you do that by providing a fan-friendly atmosphere. You do that by providing ticket prices that are reasonable, and you make it so that, people want to bring their families, they want to bring folk to the games, and you keep it going from there. But, from an AD's point of view, guys, you got to try to maximize, your revenue sports as much as possible. You look at the conference that you're in, you look at the teams that you're getting ready to play, and you kind of figure out, how can I make this work, to where at the end of the day, I got to make sure I got enough money for baseball, for softball, for track and field, for volleyball, that sort of thing. So it's not just about football or men's and women's basketball. It's about those other 13, 14 sports. How can I maximize, the dollars that are coming in so that I can spread this out and everybody gets some of that trickle down?
Certainly. So to kind of level set, because a lot of great information that was provided, and I really hope the followers got a chance to hear what's taking place, and I'm good to see there's a lot of chiming in on this. So as I talked about those three pillars: alignment, investment, and leadership, the takeaways in a lot of ways we're talking about 7 different areas: sponsorship, advertising, ticket sales, merchandising and licensing, fundraising and donations, partnerships with media outlets, corporate sponsorships, and hosting special events. And I'll hopefully, Roy, if we have a chance over this rest of the fall, maybe we can make this a series and we can talk about each one of these frameworks. Because as was just illustrated, you heard the robust information in regards to ticket sales alone. And so I wanted to kind of level set to frame what these gentlemen said were the outputs of that. For those in our listeners that may not be aware, when you talked about ticket sales in each one of these 7 areas can be generated through athletics, which means they create a budget line, an additional part of their overall budget, right? So generally speaking in athletics, and these gentlemen correct me if I'm out of line with this, generally with athletics, there's a fund that comes in to athletics from the institution, right? Which kind of front loads things at the beginning of the academic year. And oftentimes the university will require the athletics to pay that back. And I'm not sure that our constituents really understand that. So, and a lot of that budget is based on the enrollment of the institution. So any of our HBCUs, and not just HBCUs, historically white college universities, I like to refer to them, particularly when you talk about mid-level or low-level, whatever you want to call it, programs, right, are funded in a lot of ways by the enrollment. So let me give you a percentage framework of what that looks like for an athletic budget. In many cases, that can be anywhere from 50 to 90% of the budget is based on enrollment. So if I give you a quick example and say $10 million is the going budget for athletic department, just in general, for HBCUs operating the FCS level. We have some below that and some above that, but let's say 10 million, easy calculation. If we take that they're operating at 80% of enrollment, that means $8 million comes from the institution, right, up front to go to athletics. That means the athletic director is responsible for, in many cases, generating another $2 million off their own budget. That $8 million, oftentimes the institution will ask for that back. So up front, in terms of money games or even ticket sales or whatever, they got to pay that back. And then they're really operating in a lot of ways off of $2 million to try to be able to do some of the things that you talk about you want them to do. Investing in athletics to grow. So one way to help with that in terms of alumni is to buy tickets. If you can do that in terms of season tickets, now you're empowering each one of these individuals with money up front, and they don't have to wait to a money game. They don't have to wait to the first rivalry game to collect that money to be able to invest, if not pay back the dividend that they had in the first place. So if you're talking about growing, while you're asking them to do some lines, sponsorships, merchandising, fundraising, partnership, and corporate, you got to remember that takes money. So you got to have an expertise for somebody that can write a nice sponsorship proposal. The athletic director is doing a lot of day-to-day operations. If they don't have the manpower to have somebody that has the skill set to write the proposal for sponsorship, you're really spinning your wheels on a hamster because you're asking them to do something that they really don't have the time to do because they're putting out other items that they have to do to keep the program running. So if we can get these individuals that love their institutions to understand the value of doing these season tickets, certainly buying ticket sales themselves for the game, you put your athletic director in a position that now they can take that money and really invest it in a position. Because they got to go back to the president and the board to get a line item that's not in the budget to show that they can justify to get a position to go generate that money. It's not just because they want to. The money wasn't there. So you got to create a budget line for it. So you have to invest in what you want. So it's easy for us to talk about what people should be doing, but how much are we really helping them to invest to show the outcomes that we want? And one of those to show the value in our programs to buy season tickets. And I'm not somebody that just talks about it. I'll be about it. I have season tickets for Texas Southern University. I have season tickets for Prairie View A&M University. You have to invest what you say you love. And if you put that money up front, then there's a different level of accountability that you can have for folks that's in those positions. But if we're just circling the hamster wheel, saying what we want but not showing it, it's not going to work. And so again, I'll sum this up to understand the rationale when you ask the question for season tickets and ticket sales. The value is that you allow now the ability for your organization to be more and creative about some of the things that you want to create the value and the proposition of the brand that you're associating with, which means that you heighten the brand, which means you can do various things in terms of increasing ticket sales, having multiple level ticket sales instead of just general tickets. Now you can actually do some of the questions that Mr. Vowels talked about of understanding different constituencies. Now you can have different ticket pricing. You can talk about Willa Brown that says, hey, I need you to support. Now I can do some things to help put out the marketing so you understand why we are a value-added sale for you to come to this game. Now I can help and work with advancement and Brother Clark over there with the perspective of saying, all right, this is how we're going to leverage what we do in advancement with athletics to create the next opportunity for growth. So again, it goes back to that alignment, but part of the alignment that we can't see separate is the fans, alumni, and supporters from the institution. We can't be at odds against each other. We can't see it separate. We must be engaged or this thing will not work. And talking about it in regards to just complaints is not going to create what we need to change the actions that we want to see. We must be involved in terms of really learning what it means to understand collegiate athletics from a business perspective. You're on mute, Roy.
As I was saying, gentlemen, thank you. All of those comments are great, and let's try to put a bow on this. I wanted to run Dexter Martin's comment back up. Alumni think that season tickets is giving. Guess what? That's not giving. That's buying a ticket to every event. Buying a season ticket plus giving to the athletic department is giving. So we talked about solutions. Here's something, and I know that the gentleman said, and I think all of them echoed it, that no, most of the things that we may need to do cannot be cookie cutter because you're going to be looking at it based on your university, size of your university. But there are some universal things that we can do. And so get your pens and your papers out real quick, hit the record button, send this to your athletic departments. This is one of the free ones that we're going to give out. One of the things that our athletic departments can do is create an athletics department wide season ticket. What does that mean? So the first piece of little work that you have to do is all of your sports, including the traditionally non-revenue generating sports, tennis, softball, baseball, track and field. You go count up how many seats you have in each of those facilities that people can sit down in and watch the game. And then you take one seat out of that and put it in each ticket package and give someone the opportunity to buy season tickets for everything. And you put that out there and you let your alumni get engaged with that. The other part of it is because everybody's not going to come. We know that all of you aren't going to make it to these games. What does that now allow us to do? Say we get to 60% with all of those. We'll use the number. I can't remember. I think it was either Doc or Mr. Vowels. I think that used 60% as their number to say that would be a great number to start at. What can then be done is some of that outreach that someone mentioned in the comments, because now you can take these season tickets for the non-revenue generators, your volleyball and things of that nature, and take them to local youth groups, take them to local schools, and make sure that people are in the stands to support your athletes. Because trust me, the athletes love it more when they've got people there screaming and hollering for them in the process of this. Now, we've done this on a smaller level, so trust me, it works. We had the contract with Clark Atlanta in 2016 to 2018, where we were live streaming their events. And we did what we called a ticket grab. And we had it where people could call in and donate, and they would buy 5 tickets, and we would give them to youth groups all over the city of Atlanta who were coming out to support the CAU Panthers. That was basketball. That was volleyball. That was football. We did it for all of their sports that people could sit in the stands and be there. It is a simple thing to do, and you give your alumni from all across the country the opportunity to support. Alumni should be the first one in line to do that. But you also then open it up to that partnership that you talked about. Because one of the things that I learned under Colonel Clark when we were doing stuff and trying to raise money, that guess what happens when corporations see our universities and our alumni giving at a 45+ rate? Now they're ready to kick in the same money. And here's another easy free one. At that point, go to these folks and say, listen, we have this ticket campaign that we're doing season wide for all of our athletic events. How about this? If we get over 45%, you guys match that for us in giving. And yes, we will put you a banner up on the field, in the field. Yes, we will do a little presentation thanking you for your donation and your gift, showing our alumni who are committed to our universities that you are also committed to the growth and what we have and what we're trying to do. So let's start there. Let's start with tickets. And we have to be, this is us, folks, the fans. Like Dr. Cavil says, he does it for Texas Southern and for Prairie View. And, listen, we got to get better at it. I buy tickets to a lot of different schools over the things, and we give those out as a network to student groups and youth groups in the cities so that they can go out there. It's something that every school can do that costs you nothing extra. You can do it with your staff there, but it opens up the door for you to go get corporate partners to do that. It opens up the door for your athletic department to market better to your local and regional markets to get people coming to your games. So let's find a way to do that. I know Dr. Cavil is going to be having to get out of here soon. Doc, how much more time you got with us?
Yeah, I have to go now once you go to a break.
Okay. So I'm going to let Doc have the last word, and then we're going to go to break. We're going to come back on the next side of this. We'll talk a little bit more about what are some of the ways that we can engage some of our corporate sponsors and corporate partners with some of these different activities. Doc?
Yeah, I just want to say I commend the comments and for you bringing this together. I think there is very purpose for us being able to have this extremely important dialogue. So I'd love to be a part of it. Again, hopefully we can have a series with these individuals and certainly understand people's schedule, even if that means rotating some folks out. But I think if we can have an ongoing dialogue, maybe a 5-part series, 7-part series to talk about each one of these components, I think it's going to resonate with the individuals that hear this and see this, that allows us to do many of the things that we've talked about over this hour about how we move for us, these HBCU athletic programs forward in terms of generating additional revenue that is certainly must needed for us to continue to do the things we do, which most importantly is serving our students.
And with that said, we'll be right back right after this break.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the BCSN Game Time Fan Forum. We're going to start. I'm going to start this next segment off with Mr. Brown, and we're going to go to Mr. Vowels, and I'm going to let Colonel Clark be the end of this because he does. I mean, a track record of doing this is something that I know he has, and it's where I heard it from. Jimmy Mack, you talk about the foundation. I actually first heard about this through the Alumni Association at Florida A&M when Colonel Clark was our president. But one of the things that I've been seeing in the chat that I want to comment with, and it's been stated here a couple of times, folks, the first thing we have to stop doing, we have to stop looking for discounts. We have to stop looking for getting something to do something that we as alumni and fans should be doing in the first place. That is the problem that we have as HBCUs and in our culture. We have to start, if we want our schools to grow, if we want our programs to succeed, and to be able to be on the level of some of these other schools, it can't be tit for tat. We, the fans and the alumni, have to be the ones to step up and make those sacrifices to help build our programs. And trust me, as Dr. Cavil said, this is actually going to be a series. We've already got other folks lined up who are going to be coming on who are in these industries, and will be able to talk to you and give you information that will bring a little bit more. Because one of the things that we want to do is make sure you have the proper perspective. Again, we have to stop comparing our HBCUs to Power 5 schools. It has to stop, because if we continue to do that, we are always going to come up short, and we're always going to be disappointed because we are nowhere near that level. So I'm going to jump in and give the opportunity to Mr. Brown to start talking. And actually, Mr. Vowels, of course, from an AD perspective, you can do this too, but we know that you had the experience on building these corporate partnerships and things from the commissioner side of it, but knowing that you've been an AD for the last 11 years can help that. But we're going to start with Mr. Brown to talk to us about building some of those relationships and corporate partnerships.
First off, what I wanted to piggyback on what you guys were talking about earlier. When you talk about budgeting, we're all playing with house money. There are no dollars that change hands on July 1. All of a sudden, there's $10 million to play with, and the budget is there, that sort of thing. You're playing with house money, and what you're hoping is that you're able to make up that budget along the way. You're hoping there are no hiccups involved. You're hoping that, your uniform expenditure is, what you thought it would be come July 1, that sort of thing. You're hoping that that guarantee game against Michigan State, that they're actually going to give you the 700,000 that you bargained for, that sort of thing. But the bottom line is, if your budget is $10 million and the school in essence has given you $10 million, if enrollment is down by, let's say, 500 students, and your fees are like $400 per student, then you're going to have to subtract that ultimately from the budget or find a way to replace that. So it's a lot that goes along with that budget thing. And I would venture to say probably 75 to 80% of our schools coming in the red athletically at the end of the year. And you're borrowing from elsewhere in order to get over the hump, because a lot of the institutions, if they're state institutions, the state that they're in won't allow them to carry a deficit over to the next year. So a lot of times you're borrowing money from institutional advancement, or you're borrowing money from auxiliary services or something like that in order to make your budget whole. So it's a lot that goes with that I don't think a lot of people understand. And also, when we talk about soliciting from, corporations and things of that nature, we have to be mindful of what our inventory is from an athletic point of view. See, a lot of these companies, they want things that you can't give them. From an athletic point of view, you can't give them the donor base of your alums. That comes from institutional advancement. But if you're talking to Coke or Pepsi or somebody like that in terms of a major sponsorship, one of the things that they want to know is, can they get a hold of that database? They want to put that in that package. But you, as an athletic director, you can't give them. You can't sell them what's not yours. The only thing that may be yours is some signage in the stadium, or some tailgate spaces and areas that are, athletically related, or, naming of the locker room that may be, athletically related, or something like that. But, you can't do anything about the student activities building, or, anything like that. Any areas that are not strictly athletically related, they're hands off to you. So you have to be mindful of that from the start in terms of what's yours to sell. Okay. And you have to make sure that you're only giving up those items that you can deliver on when you're out there trying to solicit, from these major groups and major organizations.
I thought those are great comments. Let me just list a couple of things also too with what Wheeler just said. The return on the investment is so important for these corporations. Also, I don't want us to overlook our Black churches and our clergy, because I think here again, within the community, you can bring them together and with their congregations and support to get people out. Public school systems within the cities are extremely important, especially when you're trying to recruit not just for athletics, but just for admissions and just in general, to get these kids on campus to see what our universities are like. Also, too, city government, the mayor, city council. When we're in Birmingham, I talk to the mayor and city council almost every week. And I mean, so they provided us a home for the SWAC office, the Gray Lady, Legion Field, the BJCC. I mean, so those things happen because it is an economic impact for the area that you're in and for the money that you're growing. But also too, during my time, there are what I call HBCU friendly corporations. And let me just name a few of them, because I've kept these over the years, like Worldwide Technology, General Motors, AAA, MasterCard Global, Rocket Mortgage, Dow Chemical, CDW, Optum, which is a subsidiary of United Healthcare, of course, ESPN, Nike, UBS. You've got Home Depot, Cricket Wireless. I could go on and on and on, but these are companies that look for our people as customers. And so they are HBCU friendly. And even though the term DEI is kind of going by the wayside because from a legal standpoint, they're trying to get other words for inclusion in there. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, and especially with this election year coming up, I mean, there are so many ways to get people involved on the inclusion side of things. Because, I mean, people, even though we have all these various issues, still want to do the right thing, still want to do the good things. And these companies see value with our people and what we bring to the table. Because I put it to you like this. I think it might have been Tide. Our people tie into brands. And when we get locked in, man, we get locked in. And so they buy and support. And these corporations know that they buy and support. So Procter & Gamble was like, hey, we want to do this, this, and this because we know that we have a base of customers that are going to support us on a regular basis. So it is about return on the investment. And if they see this, then, I mean, there are many ways to engage, be creative, start initiatives just from that standpoint. So here again, there's so many things out there for us that remain untapped that we have to continue to look at and evolve through this process.
So I'll look at it from this perspective, and I'll go back to the basis. It has to begin at the top of each university. The university president sets the tone. The cabinet is important to everything that goes on around that university. And essentially everybody within the cabinet is fundraisers as far as I'm concerned. The commodity is our students, period. That's who our corporations want to get at, is our students. One thing that we've done this year at Alabama State, and we will have homecoming in a couple of weeks here, is my team and I went out and secured a title sponsor for homecoming. This is something that hadn't been done, and now we secured that title sponsor. So not only does that title sponsor want to come in and they're interested in athletics, they're interested in talking to us about not only recruiting our students, looking at ways they can provide research dollars. Hence, I'll be turning them over to the department deans and the provosts who will tee up that much larger conversation. And from that, and as the commissioner talked about, now you get a title sponsor who has not even come yet, but they're interested in coming back again next year just because of what they're about to see. Okay. Having those conversations and being tied in to our VP of Student Affairs, our department that deals with finding jobs for our students, has become a great selling point. Even from the point, and people don't think about this, our university does a lot of business with a lot of outside vendors. And one of the things that my vice president of facilities does is, I got this person, Colonel, you need to talk to. They're doing business with us here. make the call. Okay. And that happens. And I can tell you through and through that every single person on my cabinet here at Alabama State has sent me leads. And oftentimes we close those leads. So we're all pulling in the same direction. My AD probably stays in my office once a week. And if he's not there, it's his deputy or somebody within his athletic department. We're intentional about how we move in lockstep and looking at how we can collaborate and doing creative things that will drive revenue. When we do this, we win. Okay, there's not only the football or athletic piece of it, it's providing these student athletes the resources necessary to help them win on the gridiron, and also in the classroom. And looking at ways we can provide additional dollars of academic support that may not be sometimes in the university's budget. It may be one of those things where we step in and guess what? We're going to take care of summer school from our external fundraising dollars, right? And that's what we're here to do. Having a strong, very strong marketing and communications department that sets the tone, working in collaboration with our sports information department to ensure that we're getting messaging out that really puts the university as a whole in a good light. Universities not having negative information coming out from it that prohibits or slows down our fundraising is key. And everybody being intentional about, at the end of the day, we want to win. We want to set these young men and women up for success and send them out out into the world to do great things, and talk to them about not forgetting their alma mater and being there and giving back to what happened to them. I came through Florida A&M University and didn't pay a dime as a baseball player. And that's why I was so intentional about getting involved after school, because I felt like I owed FAMU for what they did for me, right? Having those discussions with the student athletes are important. But I can say, raising money here at ASU, having a very visible, vibrant athletic program has helped me in my fundraising. And then having a university that's moving in a great direction has helped me as well. And we bring those two together, right? Using athletics to help me raise money for research and other, important things at the university, and vice versa. Having a good reputation brought this title sponsor for homecoming. So everybody's going to eat, if you would, at the end of the day. Athletics going to get a slice of it. Academics, dual enrollment will get a slice of this money, right? And we'll pay off some student debts with some of these dollars. And so just having it, pushing it in the same direction. To our alumni base, when you're in a position to feed these companies to us, do so. I used to talk to Roy about this all the time. For somebody that cannot write a check to the university, send me a student that'll pay tuition over 4 years is one of the greatest investments you could ever make. If you cannot write that check, send that student. And if we can get that student there and keep them in school, that is a great, great investment. And oftentimes these days, with what tuition is, everybody you send is probably nearly a 6-figure investment into that institution, which then helps everything, athletics and everything around that university. My counterparts within the SWAC and even inside of the MEAC are starting to have some conversations. And one of the things that we want to do, Commissioner Vowels and AD Wheeler, is our ADs and institution advancement people spending some time together in a forum to really talk about how we can go after these universities. Trust me, companies like Metas and a lot of the other ones, they got enough money to give all of us. We just got to be intentional about going and making the ask. And those are some of the things we're talking about, working with the SWAC commissioner and MEAC commissioner and trying to be intentional about helping each other. And we do share opportunities. So I can say continue to do this. Our alumni associations are very, very important. Having been a past national alumni president and doing a lot of things that our alumni base do in raising money, taking our coaches on the road during the summer time to help raise money is very, very important. And oftentimes, you know, sometimes we come out of there with almost $500,000 over a short period of time. Look at that injection there. Look at the muscle milk and other things that we can buy to take care of our student athletes. So, Roy, institution advancement has got to work. And whoever leads institution advancement at these universities must love athletics in order for it to work. You gotta love it, period. The AD gotta love it. It can't be just a job. They gotta be in lockstep. Foundation, administration, alumni association, the whole entire community of that university must be in lockstep. And if you do that, we'll win. I really do think we'll win. We hadn't even scraped we haven't even touched where we can actually go with fundraising to support our HBCU. So, Roy, I can keep talking, but I'll stop and we can go on to the next question.
Well, what we're going to do, gentlemen, is at this point, we're going to close this segment out because, this is why I wanted to do this. And believe me, everyone, it was intentional that these three gentlemen were the first three people that I called for this because I have personal experience with all of them and knowing what they're doing. And everyone has echoed the first thing that has to be done. It has to be a collective, collaborative effort from not only all parts of each individual university, but also amongst the conferences. I've been told and understand now that the 4 conference commissioners, MEAC, SWAC, SIC, and CIAA are now meeting on a regular basis. I really hope they include, I know I've mentioned it to a couple of them, are including Dr. Kiki Baker-Barnes in that conversation now with the HBCU AC, because collectively we will be able to do more. And we've always been able to do more when we were collective in our efforts. And there's one of the things that I think we really need to pay attention to the nuances of this situation, because this is the advantage that we as HBCUs have. You got a lot of schools out there who back in, I believe this was 92 when Clinton was president, there was a lot of folks don't understand what happened. There was a law that was passed that gave community colleges the ability to become 4-year institutions. When that happened, it hurt HBCUs more than any other set of schools from a funding perspective. But what it did is that it creates the opportunity in our athletics again. Why is that? Well, because then we'll use a school down, mind you, they were already 4-year, but we'll use a school like University of Central Florida, which was actually the largest university in the country for years. Georgia State University that has come in and has been doing a lot of things. Guess what? UCF has been really playing football for about 25, 30 years where it's become prevalent. Georgia State has been doing it for about 10 years now. That means that both of their schools are on their first generation of fans that they have to draw to. Because trust me, people who were at the school when they didn't have football don't care that they have football now. But what about us as HBCUs? We've been playing football for over 100 years. Most of our schools have 5 to 7 generations of fans. That also goes back to the fan fatigue, because a lot of our older folks who've been donating are starting to go out, and we've got to create a new pool of it. But what advantages that gives us? That gives us a lot more people that these companies like AD Vowels talked about. They want our people spending money. They still want us buying Tide. They still want us buying Pepsi, buying Coke. They want our fans to do that. And listen, there's been already research done that says the college fan base is the most loyal product purchasing group in the country, meaning that fans of colleges are more likely to support businesses that support their universities. So we are right there. We have all the ingredients that we need. Greg, we've been talking about this for years. We're already working on it for this year. And that was one of the conversations I told you we need to have. This December, we are planning on having that conference where we bring in the athletic directors, the Alumni Association presidents, and now that you're saying it, the advancement people, because that was a piece that I didn't realize that we needed to add in there, and get them to come in and let's have some serious talks about how we can grow. Because at the end of the day, tell me if I'm wrong, but all colleges and universities should have pretty similar goals. And especially from the HBCU perspective, there's not going to be a large variance of what your goals are trying to be able to be done. But we do need the administration and these other areas on campus to be supporters of athletics. And I've had so many conversations over the years with presidents, people who are in administration, and I always ended the conversation, and these were debates. I won't call them arguments, but I've always ended the debate in one way. When they start telling me why they should not put money into athletics and the things that they do. And I always ask the same question. Do you really think that the president of the University of Alabama cared that Nick Saban made more money than he did? Or that he got more publicity? Because you have to understand, students go places where there are winning traditions on the field, even if they're not athletes. They want to be around that type of thing. And we have got to start supporting our athletics and using them for what they are. They are the front porch and the front window to every university. And you can increase your enrollment. We're going to get him on here. I hope he's tuned in and listening. I haven't seen him comment yet, but we know that we've already talked to Dr. Faison from Edward Waters, who's going to definitely be one of our panelists that we're going to hope to try to get in to talk about how that impact is helped them in their school and what he does, what he has done as an administration that is supportive of athletics. And we will be doing that. What I do want to say is, folks who had the questions about the bands, I am not ignoring you. So I wanted to make that, but please save your questions. That will be a full segment or session that we are going to do in this series, because the bands in the HBCU world are a commodity that has to be utilized in the right way and can be a revenue generator, not just for itself, but for the entire university. So we're going to actually have a full section that's on that. So please hold your questions, keep your questions there so that when we come back with that one, we'll be able to do it. We will be putting out a schedule that will let you know when we'll be doing certain things in the next week or so. We will do another one next week. We just have to find out which day we're going to set it on with our guests. But again, we've got to do these things. So you've got to get your people engaged in doing this stuff. We're not giving up our data to anybody. That like I say, that data nowadays is gold. You know, you got to come through us if you want to get to our people. And that's what we're going to continue to push. We're going to take another break and we're going to come back and we're going to try to, I'm going to ask each of these gentlemen to think about this before we go. And if you all have any comments and questions, or not questions, but comments or suggestions that you want to put out there, if you could tell universities, we're going to start at the top. We're not just going to say athletic departments or anything. If you can tell them one thing that can be done that will help move all of us forward, what would that be? I want you three gentlemen to think about that. And this is from a revenue generating perspective. What would be the one nugget that you would say, if we can do this, it will have the biggest impact on what we're trying to do? Folks, stay tuned. We'll be back after this break.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and welcome back to the BCSN Game Time Show's fan forum about how can we increase revenues and for HBCU athletics. I want to address two things. Greg, I just saw your text that came in at 9:19 that we were looking at. Please, folks, share the post if you're watching it, especially on Facebook or one of the other things. I think what we had was just a mix up in some of the setup because I know we are live on Facebook. So please share the links wherever you are to folks so that they can tune in and engage in our conversation. And so one of the things I'd like to say, full disclosure about why this conversation was brought about. Again, one of the reasons that I definitely wanted A.D. Wheeler-Brown on because he and I are totally at odds on this. We are totally different sides of the fence on this comment. But it was about HBCUs playing money games and being engaged in those because I personally don't think that it's worth it with what we're getting. And I said it, and I meant what I said in the sense that I believe that our athletic departments have to become more creative and forward thinking in how we generate revenue. I say that because I know of municipalities and communities that want HBCU events. In those places, especially in today's climate, they will pay for you to come. And I believe actually A.D. Brown was the one who talked about going to some of these events and he has to take those calls when someone calls about moving a game versus something that they do at home. But again, this is a way that I believe that if we as HBCUs come together and are able to market our product across the board, that it would become something that changes the dynamic on how people view us, because it doesn't just have to be football. Imagine if we did a baseball and a softball roundup with all 5 of the HBCU conferences in cities like Miami, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, LA, and getting engaged and having these folks come out, and we bring schools from each of those conferences out there to participate. Trust me, every time I hear a municipality call me, I say one thing to them first. I said, any conversation that you want to have with any HBCU that we deal with has to start with, you're paying all of the travel, you're paying all of the lodging, and you are feeding them for how many ever days they're going to be there. If you don't start with that, don't call. And then we'll talk about the revenue share, because what you can't do is ask our schools to come out at their own expense and lose money when we can stay home and do that without as much stress, first off. So we've got to be able to figure out ways to get much more creative in how we handle those things. So, gentlemen, let's go ahead and hear. What are some of the what's the one nugget that you guys want to go with? And I'm gonna let whoever wants to volunteer first to go ahead and go first.
Let me jump in real quick. So, and then I'll pass it on. I think it's this. And we talked about leadership all along. I think anytime that the president is out front, traveling, raising money, talking to the board of trustees, talking to donors, he or she needs to talk up athletics. And I'll give you one good example is that at Detroit Mercy, we have 17 sports and we have over 350 student athletes. I can tell you that if we did not have Division I sports or sports in general, we would not have 350 students that are there at this point in time. They're coming there for a reason. So the strength of athletics in general And the students that we have and their experience and their welfare is so important. And what we provide them, that's why they're there. If we didn't provide those things to them, then that's a whole segment of students that we would not have. So I think, that's really important, of the power of athletics and what athletics brings to the table outside of playing games and competition. It is about the enrollment of these students that you would not have if you did not have these athletic programs.
My thing would be to all the presidents out there to give your AD the weaponry necessary to have a robust athletic program. And when I say the necessary weaponry, I'm talking about an institutional advancement person solely for athletics. I'm talking about all the little nuances that go with that. Building the infrastructure up to where it can be pretty much as self-sustaining as possible. But it starts up top. You want to hold your athletic director accountable. There's no problem with that at all. I would think that 99.9 of the percent of the ADs that are out there, are fully responsible for their particular departments, but you have to give them the items necessary in order to be able to get the job done prior to you holding them accountable for doing the job. You have too many things going on throughout the course of the day to expect your director of athletics to go out and knock on doors in terms of soliciting funding. His institutional advancement person is the person that should be out there knocking on the doors. I like to say your AD is your closer. He's Mariano Rivera. He's the one that goes in at the bottom of the ninth with two out. With two outs, and he's responsible for closing it out and bringing it home. And I think, if you relegate your AD to doing the closing in terms of closing these deals, things of that nature, he or she will have the time necessary to make sure that the department is being run efficiently the way that it needs to, because compliance still goes on. Your coaches still have needs that have to be taken care of. Your student athletes still have needs that need to be taken care of on a regular basis. And to ask your AD to go out there and knock on doors, okay, I think it's just a bit much overall. So give them the weaponry necessary in order to have a robust department. Give them the people necessary in the advancement area to be able to solicit and to go out there and get the funding that's necessary for the department to be whole.
You're muted, Greg. Greg, you're still muted.
All right. I'll piggyback on AD Willa Brown and what he talked about. It certainly starts at the top. And everybody's got to be pulling in the same direction. And that's throughout. And I'm with him that ADs, to a point, they got to raise money. But certainly they shouldn't be leading, since that's an advancement area. When you talk about building capacity, universities must make an investment into the advancement area and beef it up. And oftentimes that don't happen. Some of our PWI counterparts, sometimes a lot of them, the big ones, have over 500 people in advancement, right? So when you got that, it becomes a machine, right? But the president set the tone along with the leadership team. And then I'll also say, at a lot of universities, and I know we're in Alabama State, our coaches knock on doors. I mean, they're out there actively raising money for their accounts that are housed inside of my foundation. Okay. And so that's a plus always when they're out there trying to go get those extra dollars and bring it in. I think with the commissioners talking, figuring out how they can come together to drive revenue in each other's institutions may prohibit going out and playing the Power Fives. That's something to look at, maybe a case study to look at. I'm with you, Roy, about making sure that whoever's bringing us, that they're picking up those expenses. I know there are some HBCUs that are playing a game this weekend that's close to me. And of course, that band is not showing up. Well, the school didn't pay for the band. You don't take revenue out of that athletic department's budget for entertainment purposes, if you will, by bringing that band, because that band it costs money to move those bands. And there again, that's a whole nother conversation. I think that we just need to continue to take advantage of what's in front of us, to have those strong conversations about how we can win. And then I get back to that homecoming case study, and many of us know it, and it irks me to death that we will spend our money getting to the homecoming location and will not write that check. I would rather you stay home, send the check, maybe tune in to ESPN3 or wherever that game is at, or Plus, and send the check and stay home. And if you're spending more money to get there than you leaving with the university, that business model does not work. Okay. And athletics cannot just be for entertainment purposes only. This is serious business. Okay. And it starts at the top. And if you got a president that loves athletics, it sets the tone for everything else, because everybody else is pulling in the same direction. So that's my tidbit on it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're going to go ahead. If you have any comments or questions that you'd like to put out, please go ahead and put them in the chat as we close this thing out, though. Folks, I really want you guys to think about some things. And we have a tremendous opportunity for us to impact HBCUs in a positive way. We have to do it. And when I say we as alumni, and honestly, on a larger scale, we as Black America, because listen, I don't care what anybody says. Every Black person in this country is less than 3 degrees away from an HBCU somewhere in their circle of friends, family, or whatever it is. We are not there. We are not that far removed from them. And, if we don't get out there and champion ourselves and do different things, and listen, it can't just be about the schools that we went to. We have to look at this as a collective. We have to look at this as a way for us to get in. One of the things that we wanted to try to, that we are trying to work on, is getting some of our larger HBCUs to partner with 2 or 3 smaller institutions and help give them things. Why? Because we know these major sports teams and things. They'll turn around and give their equipment, because they're changing their stuff out every 3 years. They'll turn around and give it to the school, to a D1 program, if there's one in their area. Well, that's something the D1 program had. Maybe they can drop it off to someone else who didn't have as much as that they had before. But we've got to find ways to work together. We've got to find ways to be symbiotic in what we are as a community and get out there. We've got to make these sacrifices. If we want our universities to be around, the best way to help support them easily is through the athletic programs. Remember, get to your ADs, talk to your folks, have them come up with a all sports season ticket. Get people to support that. Let's make that the first thing that we do. We need to get all of our HBCU season ticket sales over 50%. Just that. And again, just when you send it in, hey, this is a donated season pass. I'm not going to use any of it. Give it to a local youth group. Give it to a local church group. They talked about it. We have to get back engaged with our communities. And so, of course, back in the days when our schools were the only events that we could go to, we thrived. but the ability for us to now go out and be in all these other places and spaces with other folks, we've left our folks in the dust, and we've got to change that. We've got to get back to supporting our people across the board and helping these things, because listen, in our lifetime, some years ago, those were the only places that you could learn to do the things that you've gone out in the world to do. They didn't want you in other places unless you were catching the ball or dunking the ball. We couldn't get into these spaces, but now we run to them like they're the only thing that's out there. So we've got to start back getting into it and doing it. Gentlemen, again, I want to thank each of you for your support and your time in this effort, and we will continue these. Like I said, these conversations will continue to happen. We're going to bring A.D. Wheeler-Brown back for one of them, I know for sure, because this particular conversation was brought about because of a conversation that he and I had, something I had no clue about. The fact that he talks about supporting and giving your athletic directors what they need. You know, a lot of folks don't realize that our HBCUs are not funding scholarships anywhere near the level that the NCAA allows them to. So when you're talking to a basketball coach that has 2 scholarships to give for a team of 15 people, but you're expecting that person to win a lot of games, we've got to start looking at all of the aspects of how we handle this. And that will be one of the discussions that talks about the difference in scholarships that are allowed and what your average HBCU gives to students. Again, these are ways that we can change this. The first way, again, I'm going to continue to say this, ticket sales are ways for dollars to go directly into athletics. Do that. Folks who work these corporate jobs, get to your advancement people and talk to the folks at your company and let them know, hey, let's do, if we do our part, we want to see you guys support what we do. Do some matching stuff. And a lot of times when they do it, it's tax deductible, if I'm not mistaken, right, Colonel? Yeah. You know, these are things that we can really get into, man. And we've just got to take our time and do this. You know, this is something that we've been in this business, like I said, going on 30 years now with the Black College Sports Network. And when Brian and I started this company, we were sitting down and we were like, we can't be the only folks who want to see what's going on in HBCU sports, and we can't find it anywhere. And being a Rattler, coming out of that era that we call, we were Humphrey's babies. And it was a golden period at FAMU and a Renaissance period. Our professors always said one thing: don't come to us with a problem if you don't have a solution for it in hand. So we decided, you know what, we're going to stop asking people to do stuff for us, and we created the Black College Sports Network so that we can put out information about us that's not filtered through someone else's lens. But we need your help. We need your help. We need your support. These HBCUs need your help. They need your support. Not just your HBCU, all of them. Because if they get rid of enough smaller ones, it's not going to be difficult for them to get rid of the larger ones. And trust me, when we started this company in 1994, there were 135 HBCUs. There are now approximately 106, I think 105, the last check that I did. We'll have that number to see who's still open, so they can go. And they are coming after us in different areas, so you got to be very careful about what we do to continue and to sustain our legacy. Gentlemen, the last thing we're going to do is, if you have anything, I know you said you're semi-retired, A.D. Wheeler. We're going to start with you. But, you know, if anybody looking for a good athletic director, I'm telling you, the brother's there. He can do some stuff. I'm sure if he's semi-retired, he might do some consulting. So even go over that. Let folks know how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you. A.D. Vowels, we know that you're down there over in Detroit. And I get it. I know what you're there for. But, you know, I'm sure he may be available for some consulting too. But then we're going to let Colonel Clark give out his information, how you can support them ASU Hornets and what they've got going on. But, gentlemen, go ahead. A.D. Wheeler.
Want to thank you all for having me, and looking forward to, further conversations, things of that nature. Anyone with questions or anything like that, I can be reached at wheelerbrown73@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to answer any individual questions that may be out there, and I promise to get back to you as soon as possible. But this has been great. I've always been one to be a champion of getting the information out there so that our folk know exactly what's going on, so that as they speak to other people, that they're giving factual information and not just things that they think are going on, or what somebody who didn't have knowledge of says, things of that nature. And so I just want to thank you, Roy, for having me aboard, and looking forward for any future conversations that we may get a chance to have.
Well, I've really enjoyed this evening because I've been away for a minute from the HBCUs, but I still feel close to heart with everybody. You can reach me at vowelsrc@udmercy.edu. That's Vowels, VOWELS, RC @udmercy, MERCY.edu. And my cell phone is 313-516-4182. And I do answer texts, emails, and I will call you back. So please, any questions, any thoughts, I would love to hear from you. And it's been great being on this podcast tonight.
Yeah, Roy, we did it. This has been a great kickoff, and keep up the good work. I'll commit to you as you get ready to come, especially coming to homecoming with us. I'm committing that I'll buy some commercial space from you, from Alabama State University, to support your efforts. So you can go ahead and put a notch in that one. And I think it was a great conversation, and certainly want to shout out my athletic director, Dr. Jason Cavil, and his team, one of the best athletic minds in the country, and really moving us in a great direction. And if you want to find out more about Alabama State University athletics, you can go to bamastatesports.com, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. And if you want to donate, you can go to www.alasu.edu and click on that give button. And there's a drop down where you can find everything you want to give to, with regards to this. If you want to get to me, I'm at gclark@alasu.edu. This was a great session. Keep up the good work. And I have some ideas that could probably enhance it more. I'd love to, inside your sessions, maybe bring on the directors of marketing and communications that really talk about shaping the narrative and the image of what the public see around our athletics department. But we got some great young athletic directors around the country, great minds. And I submit to our alumni base, let's continue to support our young men and women. And while you're out there watching football on Fridays, or basketball, or whatever the sport may be, if you see a kid that you think could benefit your university, send them to us. We'll take care of them. And I guarantee you we'll send them back out into the world better than where they were when they came in. We'll send them back as grown men and grown women that's ready to tackle the world and do great things. So keep up the good work, Roy. Let's talk about this sponsorship. And I'll challenge my other HBCU advancement officers, buy commercial space on this network. Okay, I'll lead the way, Roy. And I'll help you try to get the rest of them in line and support this effort.
Well, listen, we appreciate that. One of the things that we like to say that we're doing this because we love it. It is a business. At the end of the day, we get that, but it's also a mission, and it's a mission that I've always said that is divinely inspired and divinely ordered for me. So that's why it's been done the last 25 years, and we haven't really had a lot of financial support, but we're looking for it, and we definitely be doing that. want to go ahead and shout out to AD Cavil. He jumped in there. I don't know if you saw the comment. So listen, young man doing some great things, man. These folks are out there and we love them. They support us. They call us down when can you come down and getting that access. That's all we look for is we want access to be able to tell our stories, because if we don't tell our stories, if we don't continue to be our own trumpet players, no one else will do it. And that is that is one of the primary missions of not only the Black College Sports Net, but the Jericho Broadcast Networks, which is the parent company that we have. And I think you guys really understand that we mean this when we say it. One of our 3 tenets in our mission statement is the growth and sustainability of HBCUs across the country. And we will continue to operate that way. That has been a part of our mission since day one, and it will always be a part of the mission. We will never apologize for the fact that we are centered on HBCUs, that we are centered in the heart of the Black community. And that is what we're about for this network, and we will always do that. So we definitely want to see your support. You can support us if you'd like. Take donations via Cash App. You can do it. It's hashtag MyJBN, MyBCSN. I was going across the screen. You can do that. We will be back next week. We'll let you know who's going to be some of our folks. Gentlemen, again, thank you. Again, all 3 of these gentlemen over the past years have played an integral part in what we've been able to do here at the Black College Sports Network, whether it's been their support, whether it's been them putting us out in front where other people were, or having our names in spaces that we weren't even accessing to be able to do different things. But we will do more. We're committed to doing more. And that's what we're looking for. So we will be here to do that. Until next time, please make sure you check out the rest of the shows here on the Black College Sports Network. Today's Wednesday. So tomorrow we have, I believe, another Inside HBCU Sports Lab. Dr. Cavil will be on at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Tomorrow, Friday, at the same time, they will be on the Carlos Brown Show, where Mr. Wheeler Brown is a regular member of that crew. Will be on Saturday from 12 to 2 Eastern time. We will, prior to that, be on with the BCSN Game Time show from 9 to 12, doing what we normally do, and we will also be doing a watch party for several HBCU games live here in Atlanta at our new studio space. So we're looking at come grow with us, as we like to say. But again, ladies and gentlemen, please, thank you. Call your ADs, support. Get the seat. If they just bug them to death and say, do you have an all sports season ticket? How can I get one? Get it. Can you make something like that so that we can give it? And to the athletic departments, in that all sport season ticket, include your allegedly non-revenue generating sports in there. Make them revenue generating. That's how we have to do it. We've got to think out of the box. We got to think like there is no box. We've got to think that this is survival, because that's exactly what it is. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your time. This is Roy Eavins signing off from the Black College Sports Network.